Thinking of perfect matches, I had a story to tell you guys. I found myself in a horrible position a few years back, and it was horrible for 3 reasons. I was out in West Virginia driving our parish van on our parish mission trip, and I had a catastrophic problem. Problem number 1 was I had no idea where I was, which was a big problem. I was on a back road in the middle of nowhere. Problem 2 was my cell phone was dead because I had been using it as a GPS to try to figure out where the heck I was, and so now I couldn't call anybody. And problem 3 was the van was almost out of gas. It had been on E for a while, and I could hear the band do music. No, I'm just kidding. But I was stuck, and I thought I was going to break down on the side of the road and have to try to walk somewhere to find gas. When finally, by dumb luck, I actually staggered upon a gas station. And the attendant there knew, not only 1, was willing to let me fill up, but 2, knew exactly where I was and was able to help me get back to where I needed to go, which was a huge relief. And that's the point we want to introduce this evening, is how does all this connect with Adam and Eve? Caitlin?
All right, Ken, let me think about how that might connect to Adam and Eve. Do you think that the way you felt when you were lost in Appalachia is kind of the way Adam felt when he was alone in the Garden of Eden? Maybe Ken, who was driving around with the gas light on, knew that his van was missing something really important, gas. Without the gas, the van just couldn't function. And Adam maybe felt kind of the same way. He was there in the garden, but he was missing something really, really important when he was all alone. But there is a crucial difference between the van and its gas and Adam and Eve, who came to fulfill him. The van uses gas to function, whereas Adam found a partner in Eve. So he was missing something really important. Without Eve, he couldn't function. But when he got her, they were partners together. A better analogy for Adam and Eve are these 2 puzzle pieces.
Hold on, before we put it together.
Oh. Who knows what these are? Anyone?
Yes!
They are puzzle pieces. Good job. Anyone know what they make together? A square. It's not quite. All right, let's put them together. Does anyone know what this is now? And sign. That's right. So just like Adam and Eve, the puzzle pieces are made of the same exact stuff. They're made of paper and ink, just like Adam and Eve, like all of us, are made of flesh and blood and bones and all that stuff. On their own, they don't make any sense. Nobody even knew what they were, except for Rebecca over here, who's very smart. Nobody even knew what they were on their own. But together, they form a complete picture, a symbol that all of us recognize as the ant symbol.
And that's very important because these puzzle pieces wouldn't work unless they were different. Their differences complement each other and it brings out the full picture. And that's the same deal that goes on with Adam and Eve. That's why God created them different. Because unless they were different, they wouldn't fulfill the entire picture of creation. One of my favorite lines in the gospel, in the book of Genesis, is when God says after he creates Adam. Does anyone know what he says after he creates Adam? It's very striking. He says, "It is not good." It is not good. And that's after God saying, "It's good. I created light, it's good. I created animals, it's good. I created water, it's good." Then he gets to me, he's like, "Whoa, not good." And the reason it wasn't good was Eve was missing from the picture. One half of the picture was missing. But it's also important to remember that Adam and Eve, they're also different, yet they're equal. Okay? These two puzzle pieces, they have different connections, but they're made of the same stuff, paper and cardboard. Just like Adam and Eve were made out of flesh and blood. And when Adam sees Eve, he says something that's really profound. It's one of the most profound lines in Scripture. He's almost kind of yelling it. He's like, whoa, at last, this one is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He saw his equal in Eve. And that's something very important to remember, is that man and woman are different, but we're equal. And there's kind of that joke about the battle of the sexes. And, you know, God never intended man to be greater than woman or woman to be greater than man. He intended us to be equal. And that's why I think he made Eve out of Adam's rib. Have you ever wondered that? That's kind of a weird piece of body to just go, hey, I'm going to make a woman out of this. You know, why didn't he make Eve out of Adam's head? Why didn't he make Eve out of Adam's foot? Well, if he had made her out of his head, she would have been his superior. If she had made him out of his foot, she would have been his inferior. The fact that he made them out of his side means he wants them to walk together, side by side. In fact, the term he uses to describe Eve is Adam's helper. Adam's helper. She's there to help Adam, and he's there to help Eve. They're meant to help each other, to be each other's equal.
So what are Adam and Eve supposed to do in the garden? We've got that they're together, they're equals, they're the same substance, and that's why they can work together. But God actually gives them a task. And that task is only possible with the two of them being the unique creatures that he has made them to be. God says to Adam and Eve together to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Adam and Eve are there to take care of the garden. And they can't do it alone. They need to be able to create more people. So fundamentally, it's crucial, not only that they each have their own strengths, but that they can combine those strengths and work together to create more people to fill the earth up. And that is the task that God gives them. And it's only possible with them being created exactly as they are, man and woman. And the really, really cool part about this is that when they are creating more human beings, they're actually reflecting God's own creative ability. You know, animals can also create more human beings, but only humans have the intellectual capability to understand and the ability to love one another and create human beings out of love. So just like God's love overflowed into the world, and the world is created out of God's love, we create other human beings out of love. And so that way, when we're creating other human beings, this amazing power that God gave us, that's only possible when men and women come together, we're reflecting God's love in a perfect way.
So the challenge whenever you talk about this kind of theology, especially theology of the body, is how does it apply to you? Like, is this just like a nice fact that you'll like whip out at a football game when someone's like, oh, that play was different. And then you're going to go, wow, Adam and Eve, they were different yet equal. That's the pause for laughter. No, the goal isn't that this is just like random theology that we want to stick in your head. This actually has real practical use for you as a teenager in the year 2013. The first one is understanding that God created you with a very specific purpose. That's one of the great things about Genesis, is it tells us that God's creation is intentional and has a plan. Because I think if we were to do a poll and ask how many people here have ever doubted that they matter in the grand scheme of things, or wonder if your life has any grand meaning, I think a lot of us would raise our hands to that. You know, it's sometimes just hard to see how we fit into the big picture. But we have to remember, just like God said to Adam, without Eve in the picture, it's not good. God says the same thing about you. It's not good that John is not a part of creation. It's very good that John is here. John is necessary for creation. It's very necessary for Robbie to be a part of creation. It's very necessary for Teresa to be a part of creation. Without you, God's plan is missing something. You're necessary. And the fact that he created you as a man or woman, that's part of the plan. Your gender wasn't just a dice roll. It's part of the reason God created you and put you here with a very specific purpose. Okay? That's point one. Point two is, you're called to be a helper to the opposite gender. You know, when it comes to the opposite genders, I think too often our society gives us the example that Caitlin very quickly pointed out about the van and the gas, about how we use things, right? And I think that becomes the case a lot of times between man and woman. It becomes, how can I use this other person? What we're challenging you here tonight is to be the helper of the opposite gender. Be the best friend you can be the best dating relationships you can be, and for many of you, for marriage, be the best husband and wife you can be, because many of you are going to be called to marriage. And I think a lot of you can relate with that idea of seeing relationships that have blown up because someone has been using the other person and not focusing on giving. So this is like foundation stuff for having a good life. Focus on trying to help the other gender instead of using them. And lastly, focus on how all of creation fits together. This idea that God has a plan and it all fits together like a puzzle, that's the key to understanding happiness. Without understanding that, trying to take it out of control, you know, we lose the big picture. And we need to focus on that big picture to remember that there is a plan and you're a part of it. Any closing remarks, Caitlin?
No, I think I got it.
She just likes talking in the mic like me.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to break into small groups for some small group time. Hey, look at that. I only went 2 minutes over. So make sure you get with your small group leader. If there's